I moved into the studio in North Miami, where I presently reside and work, in the early 2000s. When I acquired the building in 2008, I moved to replace the non-artists with artists as soon as people moved out. So we are a collection of 9 separate studios, all visual artists. And we have an exhibition space upstairs, which we run. My daughter and I run it. We call ourselves Bridge Red, and all of our activities, work under that aegis. Well, my studio has expanded into basically a warren of smaller spaces. I have the two large spaces, the working space where I do all the work, which is the nerve center of the whole area. Then I have 2 upstairs spaces that are pretty full of work, again, going from the earliest to some of the latest. And again, as I developed 2 areas in the middle, so again, I keep expanding as the work progresses. I think what's interesting about the working process is when you look back, it all seems to make sense. One thing leads to another, which led to another, which led to another. But when you're in the present, I think you're understandably at a loss in terms of what you're doing or where the work is going. So the one thing that's been consistent in my work in the last 15 years has been the idea of process, where I continue to work and overwork and work through and combine works from different periods. So a work is never finished until it basically leaves the studio. In hindsight, everything seems pretty much connected in terms of one thing leading to another. In the more recent work, I've tried to become less conscious in terms of making drawings and planning, as I would obviously in the sculpture and some of the bigger paintings. That you can't just make them out of whole cloth. You have to usually start with a drawing, and then it expands from there. The recent works are smaller due to space, the space that I have available, and more the result of just looking at what I'm doing in terms of process, i.e. Gluing and painting things, and the residue of the glue and the paint seems to be, again, more interesting than the thing that I'm working on. So I'm kind of backtracking and going backward as I go forward. Okay, the concrete as a material didn't really seem like there's not a history of artists working with concrete. There's maybe 1 or 2 you could look at or find if you're looking. But when I was in high school, in the summer, I worked for a curb and gutter outfit. So I was initially carrying hod, which is a cement carrier, to the masons who were doing the finishing work, and I elevated my craft to the point that I was doing the finishing myself after a couple summers. So when I made these glass-fronted boxes, generally they had a front and a back, and I chose concrete as a material to surround them with, so they could be elevated, and so they became sculpture, but still basically 2-dimensional in terms that you look at a front and a back, and they're basically frontal in terms of the concept. Earliest sculpture coming from that period is still here in the studio. The date, I would say, is between 1975 and 1976. So the idea of laminating canvas has consistently evolved through my various permutations, or whatever you want to call them, in terms of my moving forward, to the point that I still use laminated canvas in almost everything I do, which means tearing up canvases, usually starting with paintings that I still have, which I want to get rid of, simply tear them up and reprocess them into newer work. I found this beautiful bottle of bourbon, tin cup bourbon, and on this occasion I would like to toast Brooke, Tyler, and Abet at the gallery. Emerson Dorsch, to you guys.